A lot of people have been wondering, how is the PvP in The Legend of California? And people are also wondering, is it more like Rust? Is it maybe more like a standard PvE game, which is begrudgingly accept that there must be some PvP here and there? And the good news is I can answer that because I have been playing the alpha last weekend, and I can give you more information on it because I actually did participate in quite a bit of PvP. So let's talk about it. First, right now, PvP only exists on PvE servers. There is no rule set which allows you to have permanent PvP on. Now, with that said, we do know that the devs are working on this right now, and they want to offer permanent PvP servers. How that exactly looks, what can we expect there? We have to wait. But let's talk about the PvE PvP experience. So when you are starting on a PvE server, as you have guessed it, there is no PvP. The first time you can actually participate in PvP is when you are reaching a tier 2 zone. And in those zones, you will find specific designated areas. You will see them differently colorized on the map. And those are the PvP zones. Keep in mind, because a lot of the stuff is randomized depending on the server you're playing on. The PvP zones are one of that. And what you can find in those PvP zones is also randomized. So if I am not super specific how that system works, is because there's a lot of random stuff in it and I can't. But what you have to know is it's a normal PvE zone, which is now designated as you can kill each other here. So when you're going into the zone, you have about 10 seconds to rectify your mistake, if it was one, right, turning around and riding back. Or when you stay, then after 10 seconds, you are flagged now for PvP. If you want to leave again, it will now take 20 seconds before you are not flagged for PvP again. And yes, you can attack other players in here. But wait, why would I even want to go into a PvP zone as a PvE player? Well, various reasons really. First of all, as I mentioned before, those are still PvE zones technically. So that means, yes, there might be points of interests you want to go to. And I even had on my server one of the largest PvE points of interests in a PvP zone. It was a mine, like a huge mining complex where you also could do a lot of mining, right? But it was in a PvP environment. And another reason, of course, is their PvP events. And they will pop up on the server. They will notify that this is going on. What you were seeing here in the background is one of those events where basically a big save popped up in one of the points of interests. And after 10 minutes, the dynamite will explode, open up the safe, and everyone can just rush to the safe and try to steal the loot out of it. And yes, the loot is only there once. And spoilers, I had a fishing rod. Yes, I was doing all the PvP and all the murdering to gain a fishing rod. Thanks, devs. Really love that. I hate fishing. So, yeah, just it happens, randomized stuff. But let's talk about the PvP. Then, of course, there is something else. There might be merchants in the PvP zone. And you might be thinking, wait, what? You mean PvE merchants? Yes. But that sucks. I just want to do PvE. I don't want to get murdered when I'm visiting a merchant. So, a few reasons why this will probably not happen to you. First of all, as far as I have seen, the merchants which can pop up in the PvP zones might also pop up quite a bit throughout other tier 2 zones. Like for me, I think it was a mining merchant, and I had that merchant twice outside of the PvP zone in the tier 2 area. So technically speaking, I never had to go there. Second, when you are at the merchant, you are safe. Nobody can attack you. This is a PvP free zone and the radius is quite big, so you don't have to worry about it. Third, when you are using the stagecoach to actually get to the merchant or to leave the merchant, keep in mind that nobody can attack you. You are completely invincible on the stagecoach and you are safe there. Yes, you still have to go there at least once to unlock all that, but I think that's doable because also keep in mind those PvP zones are big and they are split up all over the map. So even though I try to participate in certain PvP events and of course the PvP areas, I didn't have that much PvP happen to me. Well, it's also an alpha, so that doesn't really count. But yeah, the possibility that under the normal circumstances we have right now on the PvE servers, that people will actually run in each other when there isn't like a special event going on in a PvP zone, very low. Like very, very low. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are actually trying to change that. But now you're doing PvP. That's fun. Cool. What happens if you die? Because at some point you will die. If it isn't through a player, it's probably through an NPC. Do you lose all your stuff? No. The good news is you are losing nothing. You don't lose any of the equipment you're wearing. You don't lose anything in your inventory as long as it wasn't looted in the PvP zone. Everything you loot in the PvP zone is flagged as PvP items. When you die, only those items will drop on the ground and everyone can get it. Yes, you can go back and of course try to pick them up again or kill the dude who killed you and steal the stuff back, right? So that's the only thing which you can drop. Okay, how do I make sure that I don't drop this loot? Like, I want this loot to be permanently mine. Well, good news. What you have to do for that is relatively simple. Just leave the PvP zone. And when you are not flagged for PvP anymore, you will stop to drop the items. There's an exception to that rule. When you go back with the items into the PvP zone, then they can be dropped again. So keep that in mind. What you have to do to permanently unflag them for PvP is you have to go back to your ranch, and then at the ranch, it will be basically, well, cleaned or whatever, and then they will be permanently yours. Like, you cannot drop those items ever again. With that said, there's of course an exception to that rule, and that goes with the contraband. The contraband is the PvP currency, and differently than all the other currencies out there, they are not showing up in your currency tab. They do show up in your inventory, and they will never be unflagged. They will always be flagged for PvP, so if you're going back into a PvP zone, you will be able to drop them again. Okay, why would I take them back into the PvP zone again? Well, because of Abigail, of course. The what now? Well, Abigail is the NPC or the PvP vendor in The Legend of California, and you have to find her. She is wandering around in the PvP zones, is opening up her camp here and there, and you have to bring her the contraband to buy some cool stuff. And no, there's no protection around Abigail at all. So yes, people can shoot you while you are doing the transaction. And she only shows up in the PvP zones. So that's the only thing you have to think a little bit about, right? And which you can permanently drop. But everything else is safe. So now the biggest question is, after I have explained how PvP works, how does it play? Fast. Fast and loose. Like, even at the beginning, where you don't really have like a lot of like fast shooting weapons or weapons with a lot of magazines. Actually, the footage you see in the background is me on the live stream having my first PvP experience, and I have literally muskets, right? And don't get me wrong, muskets are damn powerful in PvP. Like, you can literally one-shot people with it. Like, they come around the corner, you shoot them with the musket pistol, they're dead. I have no reaction time, nothing. They're just dead. That's how powerful a musket pistol is. And I can even see that some people will actually still use muskets later on in the PvP because of the one-shot potential. Now, with that said, they have an absolutely outrageous reload time. So if you miss for whatever reason, chances are that you will die. But I have seen people doing multiple things in PvP, like running around with a melee weapon and axing people works wonderful, especially in close quarter combat. I have seen people using bow and arrow because, yes, the bow and arrow might be a little bit slower, still does a lot of damage, and more importantly, is completely silent. So when you were getting, well, literally an arrow in your knee, then you sometimes don't know where to pinpoint that, right? When a shot is going off, thanks to the very, very good directional audio, you kind of know where it's coming from. You kind of try to find cover, and even if they don't hit, at least you can still hear the bullets zipping past, and you know, whoa, somebody is shooting at me here. With an arrow, none of that happens. So bow and arrow can also be very deadly. Like, I'm actually really happy how they are trying to keep even older weapons or tier 1, tier 2 weapons kind of useful in PvP. Does that mean that nobody will run around with a shotgun and a 6-shooter all the time? No, of course not. Everyone will, right? But there is at least a potential that some people would try something differently. But with that said, you are dying very fast in PvP. And one of the biggest dangers is still the NPCs. If you are at a point of interest and you're doing PvP, do not underestimate the NPCs. They will push you, they will notice when you are in trouble, and also you cannot really distinct the footsteps from the NPCs and the players. Yes, players can sneak, players can try to hide their footsteps, but you will hear them now and then you are thinking, oh shoot, wait a minute, was that a player? Was it an NPC? Uh-oh, am I surrounded? What's going on here? Like, the pressure you were feeling while you were in the PvP fight and in the zone is pretty cool. Like, if you really love the hiding, waiting, hunting in a PvP zone, they are definitely nailing it. There is one particular problem I have right now in the PvP zone, and it's fixable. It's the name tag. When you are close to a player, they have an insane big red letters over their head with their name. And of course, the bigger the name also is, the easier they are to spot. And you can react very quickly to that, which is great for me because as a partially colorblind person, I take all the help I can get to spot an enemy quickly, but it also sucks a little bit because when you have found a really cool corner where you can hide in and you are waiting for the enemy, they will still see you. Because that big red lettered name over your head is totally giving away your position. And I'm hoping actually that they will remove that, right? But yeah, the PvP feels great because you're also using cover, you're using movability, and I really enjoyed my time in PvP. Now, what I can't vouch for and what I haven't played is bigger PvP groups, right? I have not found, like, let's say, 3 people playing together against just me and killing me all the time. If that, of course, happens, then yeah, that's really unfortunate, right? That's something you don't really want to have, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So we will see if they are doing anything about that. I don't believe so, but we will see. But I can say I definitely enjoyed the PvP thus far. What they also want to do, and I highly appreciate that, is they want to bring some of the PvP events into the PvE areas, and they have to make sure, and their words, not mine, they have to make sure that they're giving people ample chance to just turn around, to just say, okay, you know what? Nah, I don't want to participate in this. I don't want to do PvP. I'm out. Right. So they have to figure that out first. But I would definitely love to see like just some quick events like a chest spawning, or maybe like an NPC you have to hunt down, which is now wanted. And while you were in that area, like it's PvP flagged or something like that. Right. I would love to see more of that, because I think the strength in the Legend of California PvP will be momentum, will be the surprise PvP thing. Like when I had my first PvP experience, it was literally with an event happening, and I was just going there. It was also super close to where I was. It was very close to the entry area of the PvP zone. So a lot more people just decided, you know what? This takes me a minute to get there. Why not just try it out? And if they can keep this going, this moment to moment PvP nobody has really planned for, and it just happens, I think that would be a pretty cool thing, even for PvE players. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed this first look at PvP. I definitely did, and I cannot wait to dive a little bit more into it. And I will keep it posted. Now, if you're new to this channel, you want to see more The Legend of California live streams when the alphas are going on, or betas, or whatever we are doing next, and of course more The Legend of California video content, I would definitely appreciate if you might consider to subscribe. With that said, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe.